Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the previous video, the syllabus video, I ended off by saying that our assessment and grading policy in our class is going to be different than what we're probably used to. Usually in a classroom, we would be working with a points system, right? There would be X amount of points that the entire course is worth, and each assignment would have a points value to it, right? And so things would add up to a certain amount of points, which would then determine your grade in the course. We don't have points in our class. We also don't have percentages, and we don't have letter grades. The only letter grade that you will see in our course is the one that I enter at the very end of the semester. So once the class is over, I will input a letter grade for your overall performance in the course, which will then appear on your transcript. So that's the only letter grade you'll find this semester. So again, we do not have points, we do not have percentages, and we do not have letter grades. So don't expect to see points ascribed to certain things that you might submit. Oh, you earned X amount of points out of 100, for example. You're not going to see that this semester. Now, I've been working with a version of no points in my classes for the last 5 or 6 years, and each semester I fine tune it. And the reason why I don't use points in my classes is because the way that the education system's set up is it's conditioned us to only fixate on the final outcome of a class. Oh, I passed it. I got an A in that class. I got a B in the class. Oh, what do you mean I got 78 points out of 100 on that? What? Right? And so we fixate on the end result at the expense of actually learning what the content of the course is, right? I'm sure we've all had experiences where we pass a course, and then once that course is over, we never think about anything that we learned in the course again. And then what was the point of that? Just to get a grade so you can get a requirement? What? That's weird. So we don't have any points. We don't have any percentages. We don't have any letter grades. And my intention is to help us fixate less on that end result and more on the process of becoming better writers. So overall, my students find this approach much more valuable than the traditional approach with points, etc. So if you're a little skeptical at this point, just hang tight. Trust me, I think you'll find that this is a better approach overall. So just keep that in mind. I might want to make that very clear. We don't use points in our class. Okay. Only major essay projects, which is the summative work, that's what I explained in the syllabus, are directly counted toward a student's final grade in our course. For each major essay project, the polished draft will be assessed on a 0 to 4 scale according to the standards outlined in each essay prompt. To be sure, the 0 to 4 scale does not refer to points or percentages. Rather, each of these numbers represents the following characteristics. So again, these numbers here, it's not 4 points, it's just a number 4 that represents this characteristic. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The numbers merely represent these characteristics. They're not points. So a 4 means that that piece of writing has exceeded the minimum expectations. So in this case, the student has done an exceptional job of not only addressing the minimum expectations, but surpassing them. So they've really done a great job of addressing those concerns. A 3 means that the student has met the minimum expectations for that particular project. So it means that overall the student has met the minimum standards, but there are still some things that they can do to improve them to exceed those minimum standards. So that's what a 3 means. A 2 means that that student has not met those minimum standards. So there's still some things in there that need to be worked on in order to meet the minimum standards for that particular project. And so in that case, the student would then revise that in order to at least meet them, but hopefully exceed them. And then a 1 means that the student has drastically fell short of meeting the minimum standards. So in this case, most of the standards would probably not be even attempted. So that's the very drastic missing of those standards. And then a 0 That just means that there's nothing there for me to assess. There's no submission. The student didn't submit something. So that's what that represents there. So again, these are not points or percentages. They're just merely numbers that represent these characteristics, okay? To ensure a more successful performance on each major essay project, students will complete various activities, or what we call formative work, throughout the semester designed to help them practice the skills needed for academic writing. So this formative work is a chance for us to actually practice our skills in a low-stakes environment. Practice is essential for growth. You cannot avoid practice if you're trying to grow in something. In any learning situation, it is important for a student to be able to make mistakes and learn from them, whether in sports, music, cooking, or a college course. Regular practice is essential to growth. With this vital aspect of learning in mind, all formative work in our course is designed to function as practice for the major essay projects or the summative work, and will not directly count toward a student's final grade in the course. This, however, does not mean that the formative work doesn't count at all. As most students will find, those who engage with the course and actively work toward becoming a better reader and writer by regularly practicing their skills in their formative work tend to perform better on their major essay projects. Students who don't practice their skills in their formative work tend not to do well in the major essay projects. Regular, purposeful practice, that is, has a direct impact on one's performance. So let me just clarify here. So the things that would count as formative work are not going to have a direct bearing on a student's final grade in the class. What will have a direct bearing on their final grade is how they perform on the major essay projects, okay? And that is the summative work, meaning it's a summation of your abilities and skills in writing, and that is going to appear in how you perform on those major essay projects. So that is what directly counts toward your final grade. Now, because it's important for you all to have the freedom to take risks and to try new things and to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, the things that would count as formative work are not going to directly count toward that final grade. So I want you to be able to have the freedom to try something and to fail at it and to learn from that failure, to learn from those mistakes and to try it again without it having a negative consequence on your final grade. So in a traditional classroom setting, if we are working with a point scale, their first homework assignment might be worth X amount of points. And if it's the first time that you've ever attempted to do that, which, how can you expect to know a skill if you're taking a course in order to learn that skill? How can you expect to know that before you've taken the class and practice it? You can't, right? So why would you be penalized for trying something that you didn't know how to do? So say you try something, it's the very first assignment of the class, you've never done it before, and you don't do too well. Dang, it's the first time. Why should you be penalized for that attempt when it's your first time at doing it, right? So in a traditional scale, if we're working with points, then you would get maybe only 3 points out of 10, for example. Oh no, that means you've earned an F on that first thing. So you're already starting off with an F. That sucks. How are you ever supposed to climb out of that hole? It can be very hard, right? So that's why we don't use points. It's a biased system, and it penalizes people for not knowing things before they've learned them, right? And that doesn't make any sense to me. So what that means is that the things that would count as formative work you're not going to be penalized if you try it and make a mistake, okay? It's going to be a chance for you to try it again and to learn that skill so that when it comes time to write your essay, you're going to perform better. I like to use the analogy of sports here, if you think about it. So those of you who might be athletes or maybe have played a sport in the past, or at least have a passing familiarity with how sports work, you understand that in order to perform well in a game, you have to practice your sport. So you have to go to practice on a regular basis with your team in order to actually be able to play better, so that when it comes time for game day, you're going to perform better on game day, right? If you don't show up to practice, or you don't try it during practice, or you make mistakes during practice, if you don't show up, you're not going to be able to perform better on game day, right? So that's how the correlation there. That's the analogy. But in practice, I misspoke a moment ago. Of course, practice is the time to be able to make those mistakes, so that you say, "Oh crap, I tried it that way, it didn't work. So let me try it a different way, so that I can try to do it better." So that when it comes to game day, you're going to be able to perform better. Same with something like a surgeon. Say there's a surgeon performing really important surgery on somebody. That surgeon doesn't just go into the surgery without having ever practiced surgery, right? That would be a really high stakes environment, and it just is not a very good way to do it. So a surgeon, in order to perform better in a high stakes surgery, is going to practice in a very low stakes environment, right? So that's why they go to medical school and practice on dummies and, all sorts of things like that. So they're not going to go to the surgery on, when they're really operating on a person and, try it for the first time. That would be terrible. So anyway, it's the same idea here with writing. Writing takes practice, and you can't fake practice. And practice is going to require making mistakes. It's just how it works. So again, I don't want you to be penalized for trying something and not being able to do it on your first, second, or even third attempt, right? You need to be able to learn how to do it so that you perform better on the high stakes setting, which is your major essay projects. So while the various activities and readings we will complete are designed to help students master the skills and concepts necessary to write successful college level essays, students will also have the opportunity to revise any of their major essay projects to improve their performance on these summative projects. This opportunity is available to all students in our class. However, students who do not meet the minimum standards for a given major essay project, which would be indicated by earning a 2 or lower, will need to revise their draft to meet the minimum standards. So it's my goal to make sure that anybody who is actively engaged in this course and actively trying to become a better writer is hopefully going to succeed. I want to make sure that every single one of you by the end of the semester, again, so long as you're actively engaged and you're actually working in the course in good faith, that you earn a B or an A in the course. Hopefully an A. It's my goal to have everybody earning A's. That's what I want, right? Why would I not want that? So a student who earns a 2 or lower on a project, I want them to actually revise it so that they can at least meet the minimum standards or hopefully exceed those minimum standards. But every single student in this class has the ability to revise their major essay projects to try to make them better, to try to improve them if they would like. And again, that's just a part of becoming a better writer. You have to be able to learn from your mistakes in order to grow. So a student's final grade in the course will be based on the combined scores of their polished drafts of the 4 major essay projects. So you're going to write 4 major essay projects, and each of those 4 major essay projects will be assessed using this 0 to 4 scale. And so I will then take the aggregate of those 4 assessments to determine your overall final grade at the end of the semester. And then I also kind of take everything in as a holistic approach. And so I want to make sure that I'm using the best work that you've created this semester to kind of determine those things. So I will determine that in the student's favor typically. But it's important that we are actually working toward those things. So one thing that I want to make abundantly clear to you all is that I'm on your side. Typically there's this false, I think, conflict between student and teacher in a class. And usually that's because there's an imbalance of power, because the professor has the ability to bestow points on somebody or withdraw points from somebody. But if we don't have any points in my class, how am I supposed to either give you points for good things or take points away for bad things, right? I can't do that. I don't have that power over you. So that power dynamic is out the window. What my job is to be a guide to help you through this process. like I said, I want to make sure that every single one of you succeeds in this course. So I need you to commit to the course in order for me to help you with that. But again, I'm not out for anybody. I'm not looking to fail students. That's not my mission. My goal is to make sure that everybody succeeds. And so I'm on your side, and it's also my sincerest goal to make sure that every single one of you by the end of this semester writes the highest quality piece of writing that you've ever written to date. Not that you'll ever write, because you're going to go on to write more things after our class, but it's my goal to make sure by the end of this semester, you've written the highest quality thing you've ever written in your life up until this point. I want you to be proud of the things that you've written in this course. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that we're working and practicing, and we're trying things, we're making mistakes, and we're learning from those mistakes. But we're also not being penalized in a way for trying something new or for making a mistake and it not going well, right? You pick yourself up and try it again, right? See, oh, why didn't that work? Let me see if I can do it a different way, so that you can perform better on your major essay projects. So I know that it's going to be an unfamiliar system for most of you. And so if you're a little intimidated, or you're skeptical, or you're confused, or even scared, please just sit tight. I promise things will become a little bit clearer as we go. And once we begin to submit things, you'll have a better understanding of this. Hopefully, I will reiterate these things throughout the semester. I will make sure that we're familiar with it. But if you do have any questions, please message me, send me a message. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns about this. And I'm happy to clarify things. And also, we can set up a Zoom meeting if needed to talk about these things in a kind of a more semi-face-to-face environment. So, all right, y'all. Well, again, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.